Hey guys, so sorry about that. That was annoying. Uh, I think we've been fortunate that this is the first time where we've had to stop class because of technical difficulties, but here we are. So it's the end of the year. This is just a short um, video to kind of explain things that you probably already heard from Miss Alanis, and then to talk a little bit about World War II, because that's what we were discussing. So a couple things. The missing assignments, I sent out missing assignments, I believe, to everybody. If you didn't get a missing assignment, that is probably because you're not missing any work. But those assignments or the missing assignment sheets that I sent out was only for everything before this week. And so I'm going to double check because I think there may have been a couple people. If you're worried that you're missing an assignment, let me know. You have until this Friday to turn in any past work. So anything that was assigned before this current week that you didn't turn in. If you turn it in after that, I will still accept it. However, I cannot guarantee that I will be able to grade it in time before report cards come out. So I'm not going to assign any homework next week since it's the last week. But I think there are one or tests. But so everything that you're doing this week, you still have till Sunday to turn in. But that's what I'm going to be grading next week. I hope I'm not overly complicating it. So anything that you got that says you're missing it from an email, turn it in as soon as you can. In fact, turn in all of your work as soon as you can, because we have this week and only part of next week. Your parents are going to drive to school to pick up your report cards at the end of next week, June 5th. Speaking of that, we return our history and science books. Please, 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 please. I know they're not like the most like durable things, but I keep them for students who lose their books next year. So we'll be ordering new books for everybody next year. But let's say somebody forgets the thing, Lucy loses her stuff. I need to have replacements. So you don't obviously have to turn in your math pages that you've been tearing out, but your history books, your science books, we need those back. Please, por favor. So turn in all your missing assignments as soon as possible, and return your history and science books. All right, just a short word about World War II. We've been talking about how the end of World War I began World War II, and how the Treaty of Versailles was kind of so flawed that it gave crazy people like Hitler and others an opportunity to rise to power. So the Treaty of Versailles not only is punitive, it punishes Germany economically, militarily. Remember, they can't have like a big army or a big navy, can't have tanks and whatnot. But it also is insulting, right? Article 231 says that they have to admit that it was their fault, which they didn't believe it was. And you could argue that it wasn't their fault, at least not any more than it was anybody else's fault. So the Treaty of Versailles kind of, if you think of World War I like a wound, instead of the treaty like putting a salve or disinfectant on it, the Treaty of Versailles just leaves it infected. So people are like upset. It doesn't solve the problems that began World War I. Now, things still may have kind of worked out okay, except for the global depression that's in the 30s. In the 20s, things are going well. World War I's over. The economy is starting to recover. Even Germany's starting to build their economy back up. Everybody's doing pretty well. But in the end, November 1929, the United States stock market crashes. And that leads to a global depression. And you couple this global depression with this kind of simmering mistrust and angst from World War I, and you see the rise of fascist governments. Now, a fascist government means a strong central government that has lots of power. Now, the United States has a the United States has a strong central government, but ours is not a fascist regime because the individual still has their rights. So a fascist government means a government that's so strong that it can take your rights away. So America has a strong central government. The FBI, the CIA, the president, all of these institutions have a lot of power. But because of our Constitution, they can't arrest you without certain evidence. They can't just put you on trial for no reason. They can't just take away your belongings for no reason. In a fascist government, you can. Now, I'm going to kind of just leave it at that oversimplified version. But the reason that fascist governments rise during the Depression is people are scared and they're poor and they're hungry. And so they want somebody who can get things done. And in a regular government, it takes a long time to get things done. If you think of Congress today, they don't pass many laws because Republicans and Democrats are at each other and they're arguing and they're debating, and so they don't get a whole lot done. In a fascist government, since there's just the one big, strong government, they say, this is what we're doing. And they get things done. Now, that can change things quickly, which can be good. But if you lose all your rights, then what's the point? So people are able to rise to power in this chaos. And the main players in this are Benito Mussolini in Italy and Adolf Hitler in Germany. And they rise together in the chaos of the 30s. So that's what leads to World War II. World War II and World War I have a lot of similarities in that, if you remember, World War I was started by the assassination of Archduke. It becomes a world war because of the alliance system, everybody coming in. World War II starts because Germany is aggressive and taking territory. It grows because of this alliance system. So, if you recall, Adolf Hitler takes Austria peacefully, but he takes it. And England and France are not really cool with that, but they don't want to start another war. World War I was only 20 years ago, less than that. And they are just like, okay, you can have it. Then he takes parts of Czechoslovakia, and they don't like that, but they don't want to start another World War I. So they just think, hey man, cool it. Let's just all get along. And he's like, okay, promise, won't. And then he takes the rest of Czechoslovakia, and they're like, hey man, quit doing that. When he invades Poland, Poland is an ally with France and Germany. And so when Adolf Hitler declares war on Poland, the Nazis do, England and France are bound by the treaty to declare war on Germany. Germany is allied with Italy, and so they declare war on each other. And so it kind of starts this domino effect again. Now, in the case of the Nazis, they needed to be stopped, so it's a good thing. But there's the same kind of issue where a dispute between two countries grows as other countries are dragged in alliances. Now, the last thing that I want to say today is we talked a little bit about how America in the Pacific, the growing empire of Japan and the growing empire of America and the Pacific led to them arguing or fighting. But that's not till 1941. World War II in Europe begins in 1939. Now, after World War I, the militaries of all the countries involved sit back and think, what did we do wrong, right? Because if you remember, at least in the Western theater, the front lines didn't change very much. From 1914 to 1918, there's only a couple miles of movement because they had the trenches and the barbed wire and everything we talked about. And so they come up, France, England, Germany, Italy, all of them come up with different different reactions to World War I. France decides we're going to take a defensive posture, and we are going to go like build up our defenses. You can think of France as like a tower defense game. They create the Maginot Line, and the Maginot Line is like this hugely fortified stronghold that stretches all the way from Germany, the entire border between France and Germany. And it's got underground tunnels with trains and hospitals. It's got huge guns that can fire massive artillery shells. And there's like, supporting bases behind it. And their idea is if World War II starts out, it's going to be like World War I, and our trench system is going to be so massive and so huge, right? England decides, well, we're an island nation, so we're going to build up our Navy and our Air Force, and we're going to be defending our place. The only country that kind of sees that warfare is changing with the new inventions in technology is Germany. And they come up with the idea of blitzkrieg. And blitzkrieg means lightning war. If you play football and you've ever heard of like a blitz, it comes from that. Lightning, right? A blitz in football is all of the defense just rushes, get that quarterback, get him. And blitzkrieg is a offensive war, not defensive, building fortifications, waiting for people to come. It is attacking, and it's about attacking quickly. So blitzkrieg uses tanks, which drive, faster than a human can walk, mechanized infantry, which means like guys with guns, but they're like in cars or something on wheels, and planes. So the panzers or the tanks will attack and punch a hole in the line, and they'll keep on driving. The infantry drives right up behind them to support them to make sure they're not flanked. And in the midst of all this, you have planes bombing the forces right in front of the tank. So they're all moving fast. So they can hit one place, punch through, and before the end of the day, they can be 20, 30 miles inland. Think about if you had to walk from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, right? If you're an infantry person and you're walking there, like most armies had in the past, it's going to take you days, maybe weeks to walk there. But think about how fast you could drive to Las Vegas. So the German military, because it's on wheels, is going so fast that it's hard for the defensive armies of France and Poland and England to keep up with them, right? They're trying to react, but in the blitzkrieg, the lightning war, they're constantly moving ahead. And so Germany's able to use this new type of war to just kind of, at the beginning of the war, beat everybody. They defeat Poland in 6 weeks. Then they turn around and they invade France, and France had the largest army in Europe at the time, and there's 500,000 British soldiers there as well when they declared war on Germany. So there's this huge force. But Germany punches through the Ardennes forest, goes right around the Maginot Line, which doesn't even do anything. They surround the English and basically force them to retreat. They invade Paris, and the whole thing, France falls apart. This huge country that had fought Germany for 4 or 5 years in World War I, and they're out of it in like a month. And this is shocking. And people are like, how could this have happened? And this blitzkrieg in 1939, 1940, and the beginning of 1941, Germany, to a lesser extent Italy, basically conquer most of Europe. And there's nothing that anybody can do. And France capitulates, Poland's gone, Austria is part of Germany. They conquer Norway and Sweden. This blitzkrieg, this lightning war just goes on and on and on, and people don't know what to do. And so for a while, for the first 2 years, it looks like nothing can stop Hitler and the Nazis. What a terrifying thought. But things change in 1940 and 1941. The two major mistakes that Germany makes is, number one, they invade Russia. We'll talk about that on Friday. And they ally with Japan. So invading, they had defeated everybody. They just had England left. But when they invade Russia, they open up another front on the war. So instead of just fighting England that they had already hurt, now they're fighting England and Russia. Then when they sign an alliance with Japan, Japan attacks America, and now they're fighting England, Russia, and America. And at that point, the tides shift. We'll talk more about that Friday. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm super sorry about how it went down with the technology today, but I hope you're doing well. We're almost at the end of it, and I will see you Friday. Remember to turn in your work. If you are wondering if you're missing anything, remember, text me, email me, whatever you think, and we'll figure it out. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.